On behalf of our client, we respectfully are requesting to withdraw the application for a special exception without prejudice. And let me explain what's happened. When we received the application, he was the first applicant we received for the April meeting. And I did not do my due diligence, if you will, as much as I would normally, because we ended up canceling the meeting because of COVID. When I sat down a couple of weeks ago to review it, it seeks a special exception from Article 104, Section 5C, to construct another 2,490 square foot building on tax map R30 Lot 10, which is Church Street Station. When I actually went to the regs to review it, the special exception that used to be listed in Section J no longer exists. So we can't grant a special exception when there are no criteria for the special exception, quite honestly. So I called Mr. Morrill up, informed him of the error on my part, and said to him that if he'd like, he could withdraw their application without prejudice. We could either refund the fees or apply the fees to this next application coming in for the variance. And what he will deal with is that he'll have the drawings for the building or second building on the property and what they propose to do. I have no idea what type of building it was or is, but he can't even go forward to the planning board until he comes, I believe, comes here. There's nothing on file. There is no building application. I suggested to him that he put some plans together, put a building application request, get a denial, and then come here.
Yeah.
That would be the normal route, and that's what I suggested that he do.
Right, because if it's a Board of Appeals, you have to have something that's being appealed, don't we? A decision.
That's correct, and that's why I couldn't believe I didn't catch it back in April. You know what I'm saying? That looked kind of silly, but I didn't catch it.
It's been a strange few months.
It has been a strange few months. So I would like a motion to honor Mr. Morrill's request to withdraw the application for a special exception for 34 Church Street, tax map R30 Lot 10, without prejudice.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
We're going to include in the motion the fees paid.
We can. I did it in an email to him. The fees for the special exception will be applied to the new application for a variance. We could add that into the motion.
So amended.
Because I have a paper trail on that from the file. So, okay. So all those in favor of granting withdrawing the application without prejudice and to apply the fees to the new application coming to us for the variance. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it, and it's so granted.
Did he think he would be ready for the next?
I don't know. I didn't ask him that. It may not be. I don't know. Depends on what he needs to do. Okay.
Suggested what he should have ready to go with.
Yeah. Okay. Gentlemen, are you here from Second Empire Homes?
Here.
Timing is perfect. The first, oh, Charlie, how you doing?
Hi.
I didn't know it was you.
We're all set, we're ready to go.
You can go. So we are going to rock, and I'm going to read your notice.
Okay.
How does that sound? As long as in your pages are in, thank you for socially distancing. This will work just fine. Let me read the. This is Second Empire Homes LLC, 17 King Charles Drive in Londonderry, regarding 17 First Street and 66 Great Pond Road, tax map U4, lots 101 and 100. This is a public hearing whereby the applicant seeks a variance from the terms of Article 301, Section 3011D of the Town of Kingston zoning ordinance, and asks that terms be waived to permit the proposed dwelling to be less than 20 feet from the front boundary, as well as both side boundaries. A 4.1 variance, 4.1 foot variance is required for the front boundary and 11-foot boundary for both sides. Okay. far as is Mr. Charlie Zilch. And welcome.
Thank you. I do have additional plan copies if anybody's looking for plans.
Yes?
yeah.
Yes, please hand them out, Charlie. Yeah.
We don't have,
I think I have a larger one here if anyone wants to look at that. Let's get there.
Anyone on the right side?
I'll take a smaller one over here too.
no, it wasn't.
Oh,
That's right, you need one.
okay. I thought it was part of our package or something.
Thanks, Charlie.
Just enough.
Yep.
I'll look on. I thought it was in our package, that's okay.
Okay,
Good evening.
Charlie. Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to be back in action, huh?
It's I went to my first meeting last week in Wakefield, of all places.
Oh, my
That was the
goodness.
first time I actually presented in person in quite some time, so it's,
That. We all do
yeah.
that.
So I would assume this is your first meeting as well?
It is.
Yep. Well, it's nice to see everyone.
It is.
So, again, Mr. Edmund, as well as Mr. Buchanan, owners of Second Empire Homes. And as you noted, this is a variance request. Familiar with it. I know there's been quite a few cases from this subdivision before this board over the years. Tax lot 1. On the right-hand side with the proposed house. That has 40 feet of frontage on First Street and contains 3,200 square feet in total. The lot support the dwelling and existing single-family dwelling on there at one time with its own on-site septic and well. So the lot left of that lot, you have a 30-foot wide strip that goes out to the campground in the back. So lot 100, the larger of the two lots, has always been a vacant lot. It has 60 feet of frontage and contains about 4,800 square feet in area. So both. So this is in 2019. Their assessment of the existing dwelling at the time, at the general state of disrepair savings. So in an effort to discourage any vandalism in the area and to ensure no one would injure themselves in the now vacant home, they decided to raise the structure. So shortly after they bought the property, they assessed it, saw that the house was beyond repair and got rid of it. So moving forward, I met with Second Empire and we kind of kicked around some ideas with the two lots, and they began to explore the potential replacement options of the dwelling. And so we put a conceptual plan utilizing both lots. The plan on the lot listed, I should say, and we're going to utilize the smaller lot, lot 101, to support the new septic system. So this plan was submitted to the selectmen for consideration And, yeah, for consideration of a couple of things, we want through suggest so so is that if we store snow, if they say no, then we'll just put the driveway in front of the house. There's just enough room off of First Street to locate the driveway. So it's not imperative that that stays where it is, that driveway proposal. So and the dwelling is also in the front 20 back, which, as said, is necessary to maintain an area in the rear for. Any questions?
Charlie, what was the difference in the size between the original building and the new
It
one?
was 644 square feet,
And the new one's 756,
704. Yep, so not a great deal of difference.
57.
I think what we did is we wound up adding to the width of it, just slightly more than what was there before.
Right, how close was the original dwelling to the property line, specifically the one closest to the house to the east?
Well, it was basically almost right on the property line. Let me just show you if you don't mind.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah. It's just slightly outlined here. You can see the dwelling just underneath where we're proposing the septic system. So it's even closer to the left lot line, or the lot line adjacent to the right of way. And it was probably just as close to the right lot line. It was almost entirely on the back line. It was jammed right in the back of the lot. So this would be less encroaching on the lot lines, what we're proposing now.
Right, and
Than what was there before.
So you need 4.1 feet in the front and 11 feet on the side.
Correct.
On each side.
on each side,
On each
yeah.
side.
On each side, correct.
Yes.
So it's, the variance would be for encroachment on the front and the two sidelines. Obviously, we meet the rear sideline, or the rear setback.
Just so you know, we do have Zoom capabilities for anyone not here tonight, so, are you here for this hearing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm getting concerned about the number of people in the room, because we're definitely more than 10. But I'll give you the, if a couple of you could stand in the hall, I'm more than happy to give you an opportunity to speak. You will all be heard accordingly. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. But I want you to know that there was also, in case someone in the public wanted to speak, that we have that capability here tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay. Did you want to add anything at this point before I take public comment or comment?
No, that's fine, unless anybody else has any questions from the board.
Okay. Any board questions yet? I'll wait for the public. Okay.
I could always vacate the seat and,
You know, that would be awesome.
Okay.
I don't think that microphone is live. Can you check that, Richard? The microphone behind you.
Oh, the one up there?
Yeah, I don't know if it's live or not. Okay, Charlie?
Okay, thank you.
All right, those of you that like to speak on this article, come to that microphone one at a time and clearly state your name and your address. Okay? What's that? Oh, yeah. And then tell me if you're in favor or opposed to the proposal.
I'm opposed. My name is Jeff Waugh. I live on 21 First Street, which is a neighboring lot on the bottom side of the hill. My major concern is my basement gets wet as it is, and the last meeting we had, we actually all met out there when it was raining out, and you could see that it was wet. That's just my concern. I don't want my basement to get any more wet than it already gets. That's my only concern, really. The fact that, I bought the house there when there was a little cabin-ish thing on it, way tucked up in the corner of it. I bought it because it was private. I don't have any neighbors around. Camp Lincoln behind. It's a perfect location.
Yeah.
Again, my major concern is the water. I'm on the bottom of a hill. I don't know much about variances or any of that much, but there's a big hole right on my edge of my property in between these two lots. And that's it, really. It's my only concern, the water.
Yeah, the whole would be a different issue, but we're combining two lots to make the one. And that would allow the better septic and sewage, if I'm correct on that. Okay, yeah, and your name is Jeff, what was the last name?
Waugh, W-A-U-G-H.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. Anything else you'd like to add at this time?
That's it.
Okay, we'll see if we can get some answers for you, okay? Next, would else like to speak? Yes, young lady, come on up to the microphone over here. And state your name and your address, please. You can go with the microphone to make it easier for you. Yep,
Hi.
It bends down.
All right,
Just, yeah, there you go. There you
there
go.
we go. Sorry about that.
That's all right, no worries.
Hi, I'm Sarah Veit. I live on 64 Great Pond. I'm adjacent to the property.
Okay, are you speaking in favor or in opposition? But are you speaking?
My main concern is that there is already flooding in the area. There's flooding all down on First Street in that area in the winter and when it rains. And I think that if something was built there, it might get worse. My parents also live on First, and I'm speaking concerns for myself and for them.
Okay, great, thanks. So you're in opposition to granting the variance?
What's that?
You're in opposition to granting the variance?
I'm worried about the flooding issue.
Worried about flooding?
I am worried about the trail access as well to the paper road, but I am mainly concerned about the flooding.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anyone else on the foyer that'd like to speak for this project? Yes, sir, come on over. Please state your name, your address, and whether you're in support or in opposition.
First Street. My property is probably the most affected by this project. I am for the project. My only concern is between my property line and their property line, there is a set of trees there that I've owned this house since 2013, and I've been trying, the previous owner, took me a couple years to contact her to try to get those trees down, and she refused to remove the trees. There's one or two, there's definitely one that's dead, and if it blows, it's gonna go right through that house, and I have tenants in there, and every time the wind blows, I get a text, we can hear the trees cracking. I'm all for this project as long as those trees get taken down. Those trees have to go.
The trees are on the property being proposed.
Yeah, they're on their property, but they're so close to the property line. These are these old, tall pines, and I've gone down there, I'm down there quite often, and I go down there every storm just to see if the house is still there.
Okay, so the trees are on
Their land, yes.
Second Empire's property, okay.
On Second, and I want them all gone. And I think if they build the house, they're gonna have to take them anyways, but I just wanna make sure if this project goes forward, those trees are gone.
Okay, I don't know that we can guarantee that for you, but we'll certainly come in.
Well, I also through my house, they're gonna have to deal with my insurance. Plus, I have tenants in there, and God forbid those trees fall while they're sleeping, you know.
I think. Okay. Anyone else in the foyer that wants to speak on this property? Yes, no? Okay, I guess no. Charlie, did you want to address any of the concerns raised at this time?
No, about the flooding, there is a wet pocket on lot 100 down towards the front of the property. We've identified, our soil scientist had located it. And my understanding is that they have some issues with snow storage. There's really not a lot of place to put it. I mean, Mr. St. Hilaire expressed that to us at the site walk. And so, again, if hopefully they're receptive to this driveway, opening up that access area, it would give them more areas to store snow, in the hopes of maybe that some of that stormwater melt can run off in different directions instead of down to that pocket affecting the neighbor.
So you're saying that what you're proposing to do with the property will ameliorate some of the water?
I would hope so, yeah, I would think it would. If you look at the topography there, if you push that snow back to the back of the right-of-way, just beyond the driveway, there's opportunity for you to go different directions rather than just straight down to the street here.
Did you talk to Mr. St. Hilaire about that at all?
When we get to back with the selectmen, that's something we're going to discuss.
Okay.
Is there, that's 100, and there was no house on lot 100, and there's no house going to be on it, right?
They never had.
No, we had proposed it on that lot initially.
Right, but, so really, this project, any increased runoff would be from the structure built on lot 101, and is there any way of putting dry wells in or somehow managing the water?
Yeah, I mean, there's always an opportunity to mitigate some of that runoff by, just as you said, with a dry well, you could always capture roof runoff.
Yeah, I think that would be a good choice, so that there's less water running off that property than there was when the old house was there. So,
And I think, Peter, there's an opportunity there. They're very sandy soils there.
Okay.
Group 1 soils, so a dry well would be a very good option. It's something you could probably tuck in front of the home and grab that roof runoff. That would help.
I would be in favor of that if the surface area is, the impervious area is being increased. I would be certainly in favor of putting that in.
We could ask that be part of the variance, that be addressed. And we do that? I mean, it's got to go through the building permits and all that anyways.
Right, and because of these lots are so, I mean, these are unique situations, and these lots are so small that any increase.
Anything we can do to help the flow of water is good for everybody.
Right, exactly,
It's the bottom line.
and allays a lot of the concerns of the neighbors.
Okay.
No, we'd be...
I think, yeah, it's a fix, it's fairly easy fix.
That's a dry well?
Yeah. Or whatever, engineers have a lot of ways of dealing with getting water into the ground.
This is the guy that can do that.
And so, you know, I'm not gonna tell him how to handle water.
I mean, there's a lot of different options that we've been using lately.
Yeah.
There's drip line trenches that you can do right underneath the roof line, and that's basically just a stone line, and that infiltrates water instead of allowing it to run off. There's, as you mentioned, we were talking about the dry wells, and then I've seen a lot of people do rain gardens these days, which add, you know, a nice feature to the lawn, as well as serves a purpose to capture some of that runoff
Yeah.
and infiltrate it as well. So there's different options. It could be utilized on this lot. I know there's not a lot of area, but we could do something here.
Well, there was a house there before, so that,
Correct.
you know, you really, we have to take that into consideration, so it's.
But what we're granting
We
is
can make
increase in
it, we
area.
can make
so-
the lot better and
Right.
help the surrounding neighbors as well. What about the trees that this gentleman brought up? You know the trees that he's referring to? Are they-
Yeah, they're, as Russell said, they're pretty close to the lot line, the right lot line, in between where we're proposing our house, as well as his existing rental home. And so I would imagine pretty much all of those are coming out. You guys are, yeah.
So you plan to take those out anyways? Yes. Okay. Right. Are there any questions online, Susan? No. No. Okay. Questions more from the board?
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
Charlie,
Green.
where Camp Lincoln's property is it usable property of theirs, or is it just open area?
It's usable. Right directly behind the lots was area, there was two areas that we were interested in. And they had in the past sold to some of the abutting owners on this, on First Street as well as further up this way. The lot next to us on the left-hand side, you can see that was added on from Camp Lincoln property in the back of it. But at this time, they weren't interested in any sort of a land deal, and understandably so.
Any other
So,
questions?
on the right-of-way, what is your proposal going to be for the town to put your water line across, obviously? Are you proposing, and you're going to put a driveway down, am I correct?
Yeah, so within that 30-foot right-of-way that the town has, that paper street, is we'd like to create our driveway down that, which gives them, you know, a little bit of extension off the end of Great Pond Road where they could plow some snow, as well as it gets them a little bit closer to Camp Lincoln where they've always had a desire to have some sort of an emergency access through them. So they'd have a nice driveway that puts you right at that property line. So I honestly, I think it's a benefit to the town as well as to Second Empire as well.
Will there be any grading done down in that? When we were over there the other day and looked at it.
Yep.
And it's quite steep now.
It's quite steep across the front of where it drops down into lot 100.
Right, well, okay, I'm not sure just exactly where the property lines are, but from when you come out of Great Pond and go straight across,
Yep.
that's the right of way.
Roughly, yes. Yep.
Okay. Then the house nearest on this plan, on the right side, is almost, 4 feet off of that fence?
Yes.
So I can understand why the gentleman is concerned about the trees along there.
Right.
But I'm wondering what would be done if you put a driveway in, and that's a 30-foot, you said right away?
Yep, 30-foot wide right away.
Okay, and you're gonna put a 12-foot, did I see?
Correct. 12-foot gravel driveway. So that would fit within that 30-foot access, or that 30-foot right-of-way. In the grading, the driveway would basically just follow the existing contour there. There's a little bit of a lip as you come off of Great Pond and First.
Right,
Fill that, and then just straight on in there and just follow the grade as it is.
all right.
There's not a lot of grading necessary for this home construction here. It's relatively flat there. It starts to drop off to the left of the right-of-way and drops down as you go the opposite way of First Street, down across Lot 100.
But that's something you're gonna have to take up with the selectmen down the road anyways, right?
Correct. And like I said, if there's no interest from the selectmen for some improving within that paper street, the driveway is just going to go directly in front of the home.
Further questions or comments? Anyone else on the foyer want to add anything or ask anything? Just giving you another chance to say something. Yes, no, it's okay, you don't have to, I'm just asking if there's anyone else. Okay. Any other comments from the board? I'm not going to vote on this one, because I'm now a new selectman. I don't know if you knew that or not. So, I don't know how many conflicts I'm going to have, but I've got 2 tonight. So, it should be interesting. I may have to not be here, but we'll take one thing at a time. So I'm going to ask Chuck Hart, who's an alternate, to vote in my stead, and that still gives us a 5-member board.
That's fine.
So you have a full quorum. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what is your pleasure?
I'm trying to get the numbers. I'll move that we grant a variance of, is it 4.1?
It's 4.1 for the front,
4.1 for the front.
11
and
feet each for
11
each
feet
side.
for each, the east and west side of the structure to the property lines, with the condition that an engineering solution for increased runoff be handled on property, on the site of 101.
About, if you don't mind, mitigate roof runoff?
Mitigating roof runoff, thank you, that's a good one.
You said mitigate roof
Runoff,
runoff, okay.
on site, on property 101, U4 101.
Which would address the concerns from the neighbors.
Exactly.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, we didn't do the criteria.
Well, I was just looking at that, and he kind of addressed them, but why don't we go through those, because that's really what we're voting on.
Yeah, before we take the actual vote, I think that's
Yeah.
great. Okay, the first one is there is no decrease in the value of surrounding properties. Does everyone agree that that's the case?
Yes.
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 And that granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest?
Agreed.
Agreed with it, with the addition of the...
And I'm suing my gentleman to the right of agreement, but I'm not saying anything, okay? That the denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship to the owner,
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed, you can't use it.
and that granting the variance would create substantial justice would be done,
Yes.
okay? And it's the, granting the variance would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance. Do you agree with that as well?
Right, I think the intent is met.
I think the spirit of the ordinance is met, okay. All right, so there's a motion on the floor to grant the variance for 4.1 feet in the front of the proposed house, 11 feet on east and west sides on each side of the house, with the stipulation that it be mitigation roof runoff. Did I say it right?
Mitigation of roof runoff on site.
On site. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it, your variance has been granted. Now, the gentleman had a question about the trees. You've said you're going to be taking them out. It's not pertinent to the variance request, but you've agreed in public, in the minutes, that they're going to be removed. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Yes, correct. And we know that for the neighbors that we hear are concerned about water, we're going to try to mitigate some of the water runoff in the back there, correct? Correct. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Getting
Appreciate
back
it.
in the saddle here and moving right along. Okay. Good night, thank you. Our next hearing is for Hanoverian Holdings. And if that's you, Mr. Wilson, behind that mask, you don't have to come in yet, but you can hang in anyways. You can come in if I have enough places for you. Okay. Have you Mr. Gear? No? What's that?
Shirt and tie guy.
I kind of figured that much. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Are you from Hanoverian Holdings?
I'm representing this.
Are you Mr. Gear?
Mr. Carey.
Okay. I'll let you get set up and then I'll read your hearing.
This is One Library Lane, right?
Excuse me?
One Library Lane?
Yes.
Okay. It's a paper.
I also have a letter from the Conservation Commission on that one. Copy of that.
For that.
Okay, this is, yeah. Hanoverian Holdings, 1 Library Lane, Kingston, New Hampshire, tax map R33, lot 21-1. This is a public hearing whereby the applicant seeks a variance from the terms of Article 104, Section 104, 5E2 of the Town of Kingston zoning ordinance and asks that terms be waived to permit a vegetative buffer less than 50 feet in width between a residential and commercial use. Mr. Navigier is representing Hanoverian Holdings. He's from Jones and Beach. And you get the floor first.
Sure. Good evening, Barry Geyer with Jones and Beach Engineers for the applicant. Here tonight with me is Jeff Polstrapek from Hanoverian Holdings. The project is located at 1 Library Lane, tax map R33, lot 21-1 in the rural residential zone. We are here tonight requesting a variance to Article 104, Section 104.E.2, which requires a 50-foot vegetative buffer between a commercial and a residential use. The existing site contains a single office building with outbuilding and 63 current parking spaces. The applicant recently obtained approval to repurpose the existing garage for use as a meeting and training space, thereby freeing up space within the building for additional offices. This requires additional parking to accommodate the additional employees. Therefore, we are requesting to expand the existing parking lot in order to increase the number of parking spaces to 92. The proposed parking lot expansion would bring the parking to within 27 feet of the abutting property. And if you look at the plan, the existing office building is here, just the library is here for reference. The parking lot currently extends basically to where my pin is. We propose to expand the parking lot in the same direction toward the north. The proposal is to provide a 25-foot vegetative part on the subject property and augment this buffer with a 5-foot-high stockade fence, a line of evergreen trees and shrubs, and that would provide a 50-foot buffer between there'll be a 25-foot vegetative buffer on the subject property, and there is currently a 25-foot vegetative buffer required for the approved project next door, which would therefore provide a 50-foot vegetative buffer between the two uses. We did attend the planning board hearing for this project. It was received favorably. They indicate that they would be in support of variance as it meets the intent of the ordinance.
Yeah, the board has copies of the minutes from that meeting that we emailed them last week. So they would have had a chance to read the minutes to that.
That we can go through the 4 questions, I think it's 4, for the variance, if you'd like. 5, sorry. So number 1 is no decrease in value surrounding the properties would be suffered. The existing lot is a professional office. The abutting lot was recently approved for age-restricted residential use with this knowledge. The site will maintain a 50-foot vegetative buffer between the two uses, and the applicant has agreed to provide a stockade fence and the extra vegetation to increase the visual buffer between the uses. For these reasons, we anticipate no decrease in the value to the abutting property. Number 2 is granting the variance must not be contrary to the public interest. The proposal maintains a 50-foot buffer between the two uses. The project limits the impact and ground disturbance while maintaining the parking in the rear of the property. For these reasons, granting of this variance would not be contrary to the public interest. Number 3, the denial of the variance will result in an unnecessary hardship to the owner seeking it. The proposed project is an expansion of the existing parking lot. The parking lot's already there. The expansion has been designed to limit the impact to the existing lot, maintaining the visual fidelity of the lot, and to limit the cost of construction. Denying the variance would either limit the ability of the existing use to expand or increase the impact and cost of the proposed construction. This would create an unnecessary hardship to the owner. Number 4, by granting the variance, substantial justice will be done. The intent of this ordinance is to limit the impact of dissimilar uses, providing a vegetative buffer between the uses. The proposed construction shown will provide the 50-foot required vegetated between the two uses. In addition, although there has been a site plan approval for the abutting property, there is currently no residential use on the property. Therefore, granting the variance will see that substantial justice has been done. Number 5, use must not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance. This lot is in the rural residential district. The existing use, the professional office, is an allowed use. It is therefore not contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
I do want to read into the record a letter we received from Evie Nathan, who is the chairman of the Kingston Conservation Commission. Since it was in the aquifer zone, I did forward her a copy of our agenda so she could review it for the commission. And the commission is amenable to the proposed variance, providing Bluestone Realty holds to the 25-foot setback on their side of the property line. Undisturbed vegetative buffer is important upland habitat for nearby wetlands. The commission strongly supports the protection now and as long as it stands of the old-growth beech tree to the rear of the parking lot near the storage shed as noted on the plan.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Okay, is there anyone out in the foyer that wants to speak on this? Do you see anyone out there? No? Yes? Could you please check in with him? No? Okay,
Thank you.
Is there anybody on Zoom that wants to speak on this one here? No. No? Okay. Questions from the board? Yep, Chuck.
If this were denied, for the sake of conversation, what would be a secondary alternate to the parking to the left of the existing parking lot is now, and you've got a snow storage area right in the beginning of it. Why couldn't you put the parking over towards from the right away in where that little angle is there in that corner?
You could extend the parking lot. So, like I said, the parking lot basically is right here currently.
Right.
So in order to get another wrap, you have to extend over here quite a ways. And we actually have the infiltration basin. This is the low part of the property. In this back corner is the low portion of the property. So it would impact our ability to extend that and actually treat and infiltrate the water that's on site, the stormwater that's coming off the site. It would increase the actual impact footprint because we actually have a dry line now that we're just basically extending. If we had to extend in this direction, we'd have to do another wraparound and it would actually take up more area of impact or create more area of impact. And then because the water all drains this direction and our stormwater basins in this area, you don't want to consider this. So I can show you if you like. But we may have to do something different with the stormwater, which would be either underground or something of that nature to treat it, and it'd be a lot more expensive than just extending the existing parking lot.
Okay. Other questions from the board? I must say that it was helpful reading the planning board minutes to understand the issues at hand. That was very helpful. And then Ellen sent me an email, I think this morning, and I said, no, we already got it covered. So we're good to go. And we had a letter from Evie, so she was all set. I'm assuming you're all ready for the criteria, and then we can review it. Did you want to add anything else, Mr. Kier?
All set, thank you.
I'm sorry it took us so long to get here, but it was conditions beyond my control.
You weren't in charge?
No, I wasn't in charge. No, they don't let me do everything. trying. Okay, let's go with the 5 criteria. I'm gonna follow on with Mr. Gear's proposal on the Jones Beach cover letter. And will there be a decrease in value of surrounding properties should this be passed?
No.
Okay. Would granting the variance be contrary to the public interest?
Not from what I read.
Not from what I read either. Number 3, would a denial result in unnecessary hardship to the owner?
Yes.
Number 4, granting the variance, there would be substantial justice would be done by granting the variance.
Yes.
Okay. And 5, the use would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we grant a variance to allow a vegetative buffer of 25 feet versus 50 feet. Is that how is it worded?
Yeah, it's-
Yeah, on the northern edge of this property. As
That's it. It's a 25-foot variance.
as presented, yeah, 25-foot variance from the buffering requirements.
because there's still another 25 foot on the residential side, even though they
And
haven't
then the
built.
requirement has to be that it has to be 50 foot of vegetated on the subject property. So, but the intent.
25 foot, you're gonna do a stockade fence, you're gonna move that in.
Yeah, and the stockade fence was a way of mitigating
Yeah,
that,
and
the
you
headlights
still-
and stuff, so.
Yeah, stockade fence and evergreen trees as well.
Okay, that's good.
So,
Okay. All those in favor of granting the 25-foot variance for Hanoverian Holdings, please say aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it, variance is granted.
Thank you very
I
much.
give you a 30-day notice that in some case someone wants to appeal the decision. And did you want a copy of that letter from Ms. Nathan? Did you want a copy of the letter from the conservation? Thank you very much, Mr. Gare.
Who seconded that?
Who seconded that motion? Remember? How's that sound?
Take one step forward.
Rather than handing out keys.
No, I like doing it this way, then we know how we're voting. I think it's, I agree, I think it's better this way. I may do a little cheat sheet for myself to have the questions, yeah. Okay, where are we now? This is, oh yeah, this one, Noble Homes. Young man, are you from Noble Homes? Are you Noble Homes? It's not 8 o'clock, we gotta wait 10 minutes anyways. Hello?
Hello, everyone.
Are you from Noble Homes?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're about 10 minutes early, so we gotta wait a little bit. We can't proceed until 8 o'clock, because I put 8 o'clock. I thought we were gonna have 3 hearings before, you only had 2. So you're welcome to take a seat.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 8:05, so I thought for sure we were gonna have 3 hearings, and therefore it would have taken longer than it would have.
We could do it without the times and just list the sequence.
Do without the times, but we had 3 hearings.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I did 8. Really. We're gonna stay live though, I'd rather have Adam turn it off, turn it on, but
Right.
if you wanna take a break, that's fine with me.
As well.
Okay. I'm also gonna have you on smallpox. I don't know if there's gonna be a lot of that conflict, but give it a shot. I know that, so I'm not counting on that. Charlie, you've got a busy night tonight?
One more, I think I'm first and last on this.
First and last, okay. We're touring some of the properties? Yeah, good.
No, all of them.
All of them?
Some of them.
All of
Some
them.
of us have absolutely nothing to do, especially now, so.
Well, that's not a bad thing to do. This is... Here.
Guess in the old days, it probably would have been via the grill afterwards, but.
Probably.
What's this, next to your son?
What, did she sell the house?
No, she's selling it.
She sold it in one day. My next door neighbor, one day. And she got more than her asking price.
Of course, it's a beautiful spot when they're coming.
The neighborhood's good, but
Close to the lake.
yeah,
Ridgewood, they don't last long.
not usually.
Are they moving away?
She wanted a farm, she wanted more land to have more animals. And they bought a place in Lee, they have 5 acres. And she's now already got goats coming in and rabbits and but she loved having the critters, so it's made it. She had quite a few anyways. I miss the cat. The chipmunks already are all over the place. That cat Abigail was a great cat, one of the best cats I've ever known. So I'm sorry to see them all go because they were wonderful neighbors.
They should have left the cat.
No. That cat goes with the family. It's okay. But I'm going to miss it because they were very good neighbors to have, and they were very helpful to me personally. So I am going to miss them.
Is it the people buying it local?
I don't know where they're from. I know it's a couple, and with I think a 10-year-old daughter. But that's all I know.
It's a big house for 3 people.
No, it's not that big.
No, it looks bigger.
Yeah, it's good size. It's.
Yeah.
Is that Joey Wilson? Are you Joey Wilson? I can't tell from the mask.
He's outside.
He's outside. If you want me to come sit, we don't have there's plenty of space here, so. It was when we had the neighbors that it was a problem. I didn't want to have 15, 12 I could handle. And then in 2 weeks it won't matter, so it's kind of silly, but.
What's happening in 2 weeks?
Everything's lifted. Everything will be back pretty much. There'll still be social distancing, I think, and there'll be masks in the hospitals will still be a little more restrictive, but pretty much by the 29th of June, it looks like everything is open.
Didn't the governor issue another?
He said that today. It said by the 29th, everything should be open with social distancing and
Right, common sense.
necessary precautions as according to.
That's great news.
It is very good news, very good news. I think everybody's been chomping at the bit.
Right.
And you want to get back to work, you want to get the economy going.
Very important.
No question about that. It's tough. I'm one of the lucky ones by being retired, so it didn't affect me too much, but I'm glad I wasn't in the, I was in the newspaper business, so I'm really glad I'm retired.
Because you can write in Channel 9, every night they have them on next Wednesday.
Yeah,
If you're self-employed and you're collecting unemployment, to go for that Main Street funding for your business,
Yeah.
don't do that. He says, because now, he says you're just being greedy, because you're getting unemployment. Really? Well,
Used to
I
be-
was self-employed on all. He assumed everybody self-employed works from home.
well, that's not
Really?
true.
That's not true. What about your rent for your building if you don't want to lose it? And your lights, and your phone, and your insurances? What you're giving for somebody is not going to take care of it. Chris Baba, get your team back up there and work this out, because that's not being greedy, that's just trying to survive what we did to us.
Yeah, it's,
You want to take mine with you tonight?
Put them in the briefcase.
Fine.
Well, that's something, that's where I would have shoved them back in here, but I went through this.
You had to have them to get in the building.
I know, that's why I picked.
They're in the building somewhere.
And I didn't leave them in the door unless somebody took them out of the door. It's a great big keychain, it's really hard to miss.
And like you said, luckily we're retired.
I know,
Yeah, stock market.
We can
yeah, the stock market, I don't even look at that anymore.
just drift and coast it.
Don't even want to look. So bad. I feel bad for young families. You know, they're home with kids trying to teach them. That's gotta have been a challenge. The little kids especially, high school kids not so much because they're pretty more autonomous. But the little guys, they need so much care and,
I always knew that my wife was way stronger than I was, but this proved it.
is that, yeah, I've heard.
Oh, let me tell you, I see how Bible teacher works.
Because you have your daughter doing that from home.
Oh, I found one
It's,
copy here.
I bet a teacher's contract is gonna get passed real quick the next time. Please. But they really came up with some ridiculous things, like 13 kids on the bus. You can't afford to run buses with 13 kids, it's ridiculous.
You can't have 10 kids in a classroom.
That's also ridiculous. I don't see any COVID money coming in to supplement that, no.
Yeah, especially since we're in middle school and high school now. Yeah, and all of a sudden.
Still, you can't put 13 kids on a bus and expect it.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that's making it more
Oh,
crowded.
10 kids in a classroom, you can't do that.
You can't do that because you have now, if you open up those big classrooms, the doubles, you know.
Yeah, older folks are gonna have to be a little more careful. Maybe like that young man back there with a mask on all the time.
Yeah.
It's good, until we get a vaccine, after
Well,
that.
Well, that's
I can't argue.
I've got mine with me too, I didn't.
But, you know, this part, this is to keep the spittle away. For this far apart.
But that's how you transmit the
Worry about you
disease.
coughing on me and getting this far.
One that says you don't need them, I'll just say you do, one that says 6 feet, 10 feet, 3 feet, come on.
6 feet, I think, is in, and the masks, I think, are.
Well, it's in everything situational. If you've ever seen me sneeze, you know why
Duck for cover.
I covered. It's explosive and it'll go 10 feet, you know.
The other side is we got the processing, which that's fine, but the other way, that's what we are, that's what we are. But no one's coming down, we're not becoming hotspots over it, so there's something.
Don't worry about that.
Right.
Some parts of the country,
Right. Well, were they supposed to begin with? The testing is just coming back to let them know they have problems. Because it takes 10 days to get your testing back. The other thing is, he had 4 funerals. We can't have one yet.
Let's not go there, guys.
I know. Just open it up. Let us live a life.
It's coming, it's coming.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah.
We'll make our own choices.
Monday, we're coming down.
You just went in? Yeah.
down on 25th.
No, I got it.
I've lost two of my uncles. My father's lost 2 brothers. One at 94 and one at 99. They all made it. That whole generation made it into their 90s, even the spouses. But then I lost a cousin at 53 from lung cancer. So all within the last 3 weeks. So I'm done. 3 weeks.
That's,
We're gonna have a heck of a family party this summer. At some point, we gotta do a nice celebration of life.
we were gonna do that April 5th, it was all scheduled.
No. All right, guys, 5 more minutes and we can start. Sorry. Who knew we were done? I'll never put another time on again other than 7 o'clock. This is my lesson
The opening
learned.
time, yeah.
Well, I just figured the 3 hearings before, they look, meaty. Had we had the third one, we would have gone over the 8 o'clock.
And we're,
Yeah, we get.
I know. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thought I would have had 2 selectmen issues the same night? We haven't had any in the last 10 years, but
This house here, that's number 9 Marshall Road, that's 107, I know that.
yeah,
Is that the one that was on the right-hand side that Lee Daly demolished?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Just trying to place where it was, number 9 was.
I sent you the Robert's letter, right? I did email that to you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, I got it right here.
And there's no football game to rush home to anyway, so. With any kind of luck.
Or baseball, or...
No baseball, no tennis. Oh my God. Time to cancel.
What's happening to Gary Bean's property?
I don't know, because they moved out to Fremont for the Renaissance Fair.
Right. I heard those buildings in the back, room or not, is sitting on somebody else's property.
I don't know. I have not heard that.
And I looked at that, moved just to use it for a place of business, the barn, put the rest down with the barn.
Yeah.
And they said it's tied up. Buildings on somebody else's property. There's a problem there. I guess, Birchnahan must be sitting on his property, but that's where the storage still is, Joseph Oak.
I don't know.
Because somebody mowed the lawn the other day, I was going by there, and I mowed the lawn. Because Gary died, what, 20 years ago? 15 years ago?
Oh, I don't know.
He died a long time ago. I was just wondering if you knew what was going on with a piece of property, that's all.
I don't know. We got a lot happening though in town. The planning board's gonna be very busy in the next 3 meetings. They're all right in a row.
Yeah.
It's the Amazon, so I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah. And taxes
That'd be awesome.
and jobs.
But we don't know if it's Amazon.
I don't know where.
No, it's not official. It is not official.
Oh, it's on Facebook, that's all. Hey, it's on Facebook, yeah, sure.
Oh, no.
You gave one on Facebook, very true.
Oh, my God. All right, Mr. Chuck, you got a minute to wind it down with Mr. Zilch. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go by that clock and I'm gonna call the meeting back to order.
Just don't go by that clock.
Now, I'm looking at the one behind you there. I don't know what that one says, but not even, it's going
What's
there.
it?
Okay, it's Noble Homes LLC, PO Box 185 in Deerfield, New Hampshire, regarding 9 Marshall Road, tax map R41 lot 16. This is a public hearing whereby the applicant seeks a variance from the terms of Commercial 2 Zone, Article 109, Section 6A of the Town of Kingston zoning ordinance, and asks that terms be waived to allow a single-family residential home be built on this site. The legal non-conforming use of this property was abandoned when the single-family dwelling was demolished on November 14, 2018. And you are, sir?
Hi, I'm Shane Carter.
Shane Carter, okay.
Managing member of Noble Homes LLC.
And why don't you tell us why you want to go forward with this variance request?
Sure, yeah, thank you. So we're under contract to purchase the land and would be intending to build a single-family residential home there. The home fits the site beautifully. It's a very, very small lot. It's less than a half acre in size. So from a commercial use standpoint, I'm not sure what would actually fit there in terms of being able to be a viable commercial property and meet the requirements of site selection and lighting and parking and all of the elements that go along with the commercial site plan approval process with the planning board. But the existing use is there as residential. And yes, Stanley did, demolish it a couple of years ago, my understanding was that because there was a substantial environmental issue that was also remediated and cleaned up, again, doing substantial justice to that particular piece of land as well as the neighboring pieces of land. And I think one of the most important things that we looked at is, in Article 109 in your commercial zone, 109.4 specifically allows for the exception that residential uses that were existing at the time of the ordinance may be continued and expanded upon as long as they remain residential. So in a manner of speaking, it hasn't changed from being residential, even though the use was demolished as residential, but it's not that it changed to another use during that time period. So that would be our premise as to why it would do substantial justice to allow residential there again.
Mainly because the time had expired on the reconstruction.
Correct, because the bank owned it and then they have a process that is quite lengthy.
Now, your purchase of the property is contingent upon the variance being granted, and we have a copy of the real estate proposal. I didn't make copies of it, it's lengthy, but it's in the file that they do have the right to, they are seeking, the sale is contingent on the variance being granted. Pretty standard.
Yes.
Okay, questions from the audience? Is there any audience on Zoom that wants to speak on this one? No.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, questions on this?
Do you have plans showing?
Yeah, we do have some.
Yeah, I saw something there and just.
Why don't I just pass it?
Well, I mean, like a plan that would show, do you have, you said it's less than half? Yeah, site plan.
Site plan sketch that sort of
Sketch, yeah, something that would show that you have room for the
approximate sizing and massing of...
Yeah, the well radius and the septic system will all fit.
But that has to go to the planning board anyway.
Not for a single, no.
It does not?
No,
It has to go to the inspector?
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking this is the building inspector and health inspector would
Have to approve it, right?
approve it. But that was my question. And then I noticed that you did apply for the variances for both the residential use and for the frontage, which is 187 feet, which obviously is minimum frontage required is 200. So that would have to be approved as well in order to make this a usable lot.
Correct.
So there's a well, there's a septic out back. Yeah, it's not really to scale or anything. How big is that? 22 by 22? No, 26 by 34 with a 22 by 22 garage?
Correct.
Is that what it's- okay.
Yeah, and the actual plans are behind that page as well, of the house.
Oh, so it's, just the view of the
Yep.
house.
But
yeah.
those are the dimensions.
Yeah. Anybody else want to see these? There you go.
You had a question too, Larry?
I'm just
You wanna see what-
curious what the zoning is to the house on the facing the lot on the left. It's a house.
Oh, if you're looking at that lot, that whole section is residential use in a commercial zone, pre-existing residential use.
They grandfathered in, even though the zone was changed, they were grandfathered in.
Yeah, that commercial zone goes all the way up 107 to the river, follows it all the way up and wraps around to 125.
Yeah, to North LS. But the use has been historically residential on that side of the road.
Pass it over to them.
Oh, so didn't make any sense to me, but now it does.
Right, and it stays in residence, and it's still the beginning of Marshall Road. It fits in with the neighborhood more as a house than it would as a commercial. Okay, you ready for the criteria then?
We're asking two. 301.1
And 109.
Yeah, the 301.1 is that, the 200-foot right-of-way, and then the second one, the 109.6A, is the commercial C2 district. And that's the one I'm interested in how it's worded, because I think you're right, it says something like, residential use can be expanded as long as it.
Yes,
Yes, it does.
yes.
Yeah.
I did.
That one I remembered. No, I don't think so.
109.6A. Prohibited uses residential construction.
Yeah, Robert had just referred to that as opposed to the 20-foot, that's okay.
Yeah. They fortunately didn't got that.
Right. Okay, if you are ready, then we'll go through the criteria real quick verbally and go from there. Will there be a diminution in value of the surrounding properties if we grant this variance?
We're going to do both of them together?
Together,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, so, yeah, I concur that that
There
would
will
be.
not be a diminution in
No, because they're
property.
residential properties. So.
Okay. And will it be of benefit to the public interest?
Yeah, it wouldn't be against the
Wouldn't be against it, right?
Detrimental.
No. Would literal enforcement create unnecessary hardship?
I
think so. I don't
Because
see
you
this-
can't use that lot for, as you said, it's half acre, you can't use it for commercial purposes.
It would be hard to do that.
Yeah.
And never mind what the other neighbors might think. Will substantial justice be done if this variance is granted?
Yeah, I think so.
And will the use contemplated be contrary to the spirit of the ordinance?
No, I think it's consistent with the continued residential.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
All right, I'll move that we grant variances to Articles 301.1 and 109.6A to allow the construction of a residential single-family home on lot
R41.
lot 16. And I don't think there's any conditions.
No, we need a second.
Second.
Okay. I know, there's no, he's gonna go through all the permitting process at this point anyways.
Right, that would go through the town.
Okay, all those in favor of granting the variance, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Your variance is granted. You get 30 days to wait just in case something new pops up, but you know that already, I'm sure. And you're good to go. Good luck.
Very much, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Stay healthy, stay safe,
Yeah, you too.
for at least 2 weeks.
And go back to, send his kids back to school, right?
It's not happening.
Not today.
Have a good night, thank you.
Good night, thank you. Okay, and last but not least,
Back to Charlie show again.
Mr. Wilson, how are you? I haven't seen you in a month of Sundays. Okay, Joseph Wilson, Smallpox Realty LLC, 15 Smallpox Road, Kingston, New Hampshire, tax map R19, lots 30 and 31. This is a public hearing whereby the applicant seeks a variance to the terms of Article 104, Section 104.5F, the Town of Kingston zoning ordinance, and asks that terms be waived to permit construction on an existing lot with less than 200 feet of frontage on a Class 5 roadway, requiring a 52-foot variance. Yeah, let's get some coming around.
There is a tax map attached to that, just for an overall for you.
This Smallpox is the most confusing road.
It's been around for forever.
I know, but it is mostly driveway.
It's been around for forever. Okay, Mr. Zilch, welcome back.
Thank you. Here on behalf of Smallpox Realty LLC, Mr. Wilson, who everyone I think knows here. And this is for his variance request for his property located at the end of Smallpox Road and along Route 125. The properties are identified on tax map R19 as lots 30 and 31. And I provided you with a shows you the two properties that are involved here, kind of outlined in red. And then there's also a septic design showing the proposed house area adjacent to Smallpox Road. So you have both of those at your disposal. So let me just start with the small lot adjacent to Smallpox Road. That's lot 30. This is a 0.6 acre or 0.6 acre triangularly shaped lot that was created by acquisition in 1975 from land of George Shattuck, who owned pretty much all this land around here, indeed to the state of New Hampshire. The parcel is supported by a frontage along the easterly side of Route 125 on the 50-foot wide right-of-way. As you can see along Route 125, there's a 50-foot wide right-of-way that runs along that, north to south on the easterly side of the highway. So it has frontage along that. So in 2001, Joe had basically created the subdivision that basically and extended it all the way out to where it butts at the end of 125, or where the cul-de-sac is now in front of this parcel. And when he did that, it became a Class 5 roadway. He gave it Class 5 roadway frontage of 148.93 feet along that cul-de-sac. Should be noted that, and you can see that a little bit better on the septic design, there is kind of an odd-shaped little triangle that kind of juts along the frontage there. So even the tax map shows it being 184 feet of frontage there. It really isn't. It's 30 feet less. It's 148 feet. So I don't really understand why that intrudes in front of the lot, but it does. So the actual true frontage is we'll call it 149 feet, just for round numbers. So, and then the back lot, lot number 31, this is a 5-acre parcel. That abuts lot 30 on the south side, as you can see. The total amount of frontage on that one along that same right-of-way along 125 is 443 feet. It does not have any frontage on Smallpox Road. And again, as with lot 30, this lot was also owned by the state of New Hampshire as well, and Joe acquired both from the state. So both lots are in the rural residential zone. They're both within the Aquifer Protection District, and they're both affected by a public service easement that runs kind of north through south through the properties. So the current owner, Joe, Smallpox Realty, purchased both the lots with the intention of constructing just one single-family home, residential home on the combined lots. So a disposal system design was submitted in support of that intention and has been approved by both the town and the state, and that copy is right here showing the layout as well. So what we wanted to do is access the proposed lot from the frontage provided on Smallpox Road. A town driveway permit has been approved for that request as well. Merge the two lots together, one lot for the one single-family home. He was informed that the act of merging the two lots would lose the grandfather status of the two individual lots. So, so this is now considered a new lot because of the merger. So as a new lot, a variance is required for the lack of frontage on a Class 5 roadway. Currently, the ordinance requires 200 feet, and as I stated, we get about 149 feet. So the combined lots are 5.6 acres. They meet and exceed all other applicable siting and sizing requirements. So we're here based on just the lack of frontage for the combined lots. So, and the one curiosity, it should be noted that the applicant, or Joe, if he elected to try to keep everything on one lot or the other, I don't believe the variance would have been required. They would have been grandfathered and maintained their grandfather status. So in an effort to expand the buildable area on the lots, it's much better as combined. He can center the house in the middle of the lots. It makes for a much nicer layout, and it increases setbacks on either side. So I think it's imperative to put the two lots together instead of trying to cram it all into one section of one lot or the other and request the variance. So that's what this plan shows. The septic design shows you a very typical standard 4-bedroom single-family dwelling with an attached garage, stone and pipe leach field in front and a well in the back. Everything meets and exceeds all the sideline setbacks, front setbacks, everything else. The driveways are fairly easy to build in off of Smallpox Road, just a little bit of a bump up the hill, but there's plenty of frontage to grade this thing. Obviously, you're on a cul-de-sac, so sight distance is not a huge issue here, but there is plenty of sight distance out at the driveway. So I think it meets and exceeds every requirement in every way, shape, or form, with the exception of this frontage requirement. But they are two old lots of record looking to just add the one house to the 5 acres. That's it. Any questions?
Okay. Comments from the audience? Yes, sir. Come to that microphone over here, state your name and address, and whether you support or oppose this proposal.
Budding property owner, Rick Lemieux, at 11 Smallpox.
And we did receive your letter.
Okay.
Okay.
Joe Wilson did purchase the lots from the state for half the value of the fair market value of a buildable lot, with the understanding that they would have to attain frontage from the abutter to create a frontage, 200 front for a buildable lot. And my property has that frontage available to provide them.
And if you'd like, I'd be happy to read your letter into the record that
Yes.
we received yesterday. And it's referenced Smallpox Realty variance request, to whom it may concern. I am opposed to the request for a frontage variance for tax map R19 lots 30 and 31. I purchased my home with the knowledge that according to Article 104, Section 1045F of the Town of Kingston zoning ordinance, that the adjacent property would never be possible to build upon. I ask that the board rule with the standing ordinance, as this would certainly set a precedent for other properties in the town lacking frontage to build.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lemieux. Anyone else like to ask questions? Mr. Wilson, and you're welcome to go to the microphone there.
What Mr. Lemieux doesn't understand is when I subdivided all that land, everything is a son.
Yeah, you speak right into it.
Everything was done to the 3-acre zoning in the aquifer. He has exactly, right to the inch, 3 acres. He cannot sell any land at all off his property. He can't do it. I've known that since 2001 when I did it. There's no way to get frontage from him.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Questions from the board?
Charlie, what's the right-of-way along 125? Is that like the one that's to the north where it's to provide access to properties that would have been landlocked?
Yeah, like the one that comes in off of 107?
Yeah.
Yes, that has all those commercial properties along it. It's the same intent.
So in theory, each of those lots would have more than 200 feet along that right-of-way that was to provide access to those lots.
So there's, yeah, between the two lots, he has combined frontage of close to 700 feet of frontage on that 50-foot right-of-way.
Right.
Correct.
So if it was absolutely necessary to get access to there, he could come off Smallpox Road down that 50-foot corridor. So he does have frontage.
Yes.
On a right-of-way. Okay. The other thing is, I would say that the best argument, as you pointed out, was that he could have built on the lot because it has the frontage, because it was grandfathered,
Right.
and without having sufficient frontage. So in this case, the lot size, now that once it's combined, it becomes a larger lot, and I don't think that was the intent of this ordinance, was to make it impossible to not build a house when you could have built it without combining the lots. It seems counterintuitive to say that, okay, you put two lots together and now neither one is buildable. When before you did it, they were both buildable. So I don't see this as a problem. I do have another question. Where's Dan Parks' driveway coming off of?
It comes down the right-of-way.
Oh, it comes down the right of way?
Yep. Yeah, he utilizes the right-of-way.
Ah, okay. So that's already a road, essentially.
It is a driveway, correct. But one other thought that I had, and I think I talk about it just briefly in the response to the criteria, is that I've always been in the impression that the reason for the frontage requirement, in this case is 200 feet, is density control, along with the 3 acres. I know the 3 acres is also additional for aquifer protection as well, but if you look at just the tax map here, you can see there's 380 some odd feet of frontage supporting the abutting lot 27-1. And then it's actually probably more than that, because I don't think they include the 30-some odd feet that intrudes in front of the small lot. So you've got basically just 2 lots here with close to, there'd be almost 600 feet of frontage for just 2 lots. And so usually when you cul-de-sacs, that's where you gain a lot more density, because you've got that exterior curve, you're cutting off a lot more lots. You're not getting the same benefit here. So granting the variance in this case doesn't increase density at all. As a matter of fact, the density is what it is. These lots existed. It doesn't gain any additional homes in here that you wouldn't have had before.
Any other comments from the floor, questions? Is there anyone online, Susan? No. That wants to speak, okay. Any more questions from the board? Hold up.
It's town maintained. It is town maintained, yep.
So I didn't hear your question, Richard.
I'm sorry, I just asked who maintains Smallpox Road.
Okay.
Said the town did.
Okay, Larry?
We just granted a variance at our first hearing for lot coverage and setbacks, both sides and front, on the equivalent of a postage stamp considered compared to this. Equity doesn't
Come to bear necessarily. Any other questions? Okay, as I said earlier, I will not be voting on this article because of my role as a selectman, but Mr. Hart will in my place, because Mr. Wilson's partner donated some services to renovations of the town hall downstairs, and I think it would be inappropriate for me to act accordingly. Just, I'm very sensitive.
Okay,
The perception, it's a perception.
Yeah.
I just don't want to conflict one.
You're not getting anything personal out of it.
No, I'm not. I just, but, I wear 2 hats, and I just think that I don't want to have any perception of anything wrong. So, and even Mr. Wilson agrees with me out back there. Okay, so we're going to go through the criteria and see if there's any questions there. Will there be a decrease in the value of the surrounding properties if this is granted?
I think so.
Okay. Will it be contrary to the public interest?
Can't see that.
Will it result in unnecessary hardship to the owner?
Yeah, not being told that he can't use the lot because when he could have used it before, when it was smaller.
I think that's a huge piece of this. Will substantial justice be done if the variance is granted?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay. And is the variance, will granting the variance be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance?
It would be, no, it would not be contrary. No, we'll get it there.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we
Grant the variance.
Where is it? There it is.
I had it down as a 52-foot variance, figuring 148 to 52 for 200.
We get 149, so yeah, 150, yeah, well, it's 52, granted variance of 52 feet to construct on the
The motion is to grant a 52-foot variance, Article 104, Section 104, 5F.
on an existing lot with less than 200 foot of frontage on a Class 5 roadway.
Okay,
So that would be sufficient.
Second. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Variance is granted. 30-day wait, just in case. Thank you, Mr. Mullion, for coming. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to see everyone again, too.
Yeah, good to see everybody. And we are going to adjourn, unless there's any other business, we're going to adjourn. And I'm going to let Adam know that we are adjourned. Adam, did you hear me on that one? I'm going to send him.